Okay, people, here's Wednesday's devotion. We're considering what Jesus may have meant when he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul. We're considering the soulish aspect to this command of Jesus. And we've been talking about the depth of conviction because that's where your heart, your conviction lives in the center of your soul. And it is reflected in your will, which is then reflected in your way. Where there is a will, there is always a way. Today, I want to talk about what is it that's going to change your conviction if you just happen to have a wrong one. There are many convictions out there and many very strong beliefs. But how do we know how to change if we realize, man, my conviction is wrong? This is leading me to a place that I don't want to go. What is it that is going to bring about this change? Because some of these convictions are so deeply entrenched in our minds and in our thinking that it's going to take an awful lot to change that conviction. Well, might I suggest to you today that one of the things that will change a conviction is a crisis. When you enter into a crisis, all of a sudden you begin to reevaluate some of the things that you thought were so important. Let me give you a couple of these crises over the course of the next couple of days, and maybe you just need to think about them and see if you need to apply them. The first crisis that we need to talk about is the crisis of confrontation. When we come against something that is bigger than us and we lose the fight, and we suddenly realize, man, there is somebody bigger than me out there, and I need to readdress or realign my thinking in light of my present defeated state. The crisis is out there. Now, the greatest confrontation that you can have today is, in fact, with the law. The law of confrontation is that the law is your greatest confrontation. You see, even there are many different kinds of law. We know that there's the law of the land. You break that, and in a perfect judicial system, you will pay the price for you breaking the law. There's the laws of nature. Anybody want to argue with gravity? Gravity is much bigger than you, and you argue with gravity, and you know who's going to come second. But when you argue with the laws of God, that God has established a certain thing for your protection. He's not being mean when he puts in a law. He's not being a killjoy. He's saying, I've put this law into place and you cannot break it. You know why? Because the law cannot be broken. The only thing that can be broken is you against the law. The law of God is established. It is set in concrete. He's not going to change it. You can't come to him and say, but God, don't you know who I am? Surely you can bend the rules for me. Not going to work. God will never do that. He didn't do it for David, and he's not going to do it for you. The law of God is that we should worship the Lord himself. And that was his first command, remember? He said, you shall have no idol. You shall have no other God but me. You will not make for yourself a graven image. And you're listening to this saying, we would never do that. Hey, Chip, I don't have any graven idols around me. Well, I'm not so sure. Have a look at some of our careers. Have a look at some of our materialistic thinking. Have a look at some of our hobbies. Could these not be some kind of God that sometimes we turn our attention to more than maybe we should? You see, if you worship anything else other than God, you're an idolater. If you love anyone or anything else more than you love God, you're the same as these guys. You're loving God not with your whole heart. God demands it, a whole heart and a whole soul. So when you think of some of the great men of God as you see them in the scriptures, and you see them thinking that God might just bend the rule for them, we realize God doesn't bend the rule for nobody. Nobody. Now, I'm always intrigued by that story of David when he wanted to move the ark from one place, the Ark of the Covenant, from one place to another. So he went and he built a brand new wagon, and with great intention. His conviction was deep, but his living it out was wrong. And when he put the cart on the new Ark of the Covenant on the cart and was beginning to move, and it was about to be knocked off, it looked like it was about to fall, and a man reached out and touched it and to hold it and stop it from falling because it was so precious. And God struck him dead. And David said, Lord, what are you doing? Why would you do this to this good man who with good intent and who had probably a very deep personal conviction? Why would you strike him dead? God said nothing. David went back to Jerusalem and was reading the books of the law, and he read that the Ark of the Covenant should only be carried by the priests, and he suddenly realized what he had done, that he had broken himself against the law, because the law cannot be broken, and there is always a price to pay. So the crisis of confrontation is that we have the law. Now you're saying, hey, Trevor, I thought we lived under grace. Indeed we do. I'm so thankful for grace, because it's grace that says that we do not have to be able to fulfill the law, even though the law of God is good for us. We don't write the law off just because we live under grace, but grace is bigger than the law. You see, if we wanted to get to heaven, the law is not going to help us, because the only thing that's going to help us is if we can do the law perfectly. Can any of you pull that off? Anybody not sinned? If you have sinned once, then you're going to be judged by the very law of God that cannot be broken, because you break yourself against it. And so today I'm just thankful for grace. That grace says that he understands I cannot fulfill the law perfectly, and grace says I'm bigger than the law, but the law is still a good thing. The law of consequence happens because of the fact that we have not lived out the right conviction. And sometimes it's fed or seen in a crisis of confrontation. I wonder if that maybe you need to think about that today. Maybe there's patterns of behavior in your life that you're thinking, God will pay. God would. I got past God on this one. God didn't judge me on this one. I thought he would, but he didn't. Therefore, I can continue. Pal, wait. Just wait. It's only a matter of time before you break yourself against the law. And God will not have that. So don't mess with God. Let's go and have a great day. Let's honor him. Let's love him. And let's serve him with a whole heart and with all of our soul. Have a good day, guys. Bye.